Welcome to DynamicsCon. My name is Jaison Menezes and I am currently working as a software engineer with CloudFront Technologies in Mumbai. It's been a great pleasure to be here on DynamicsCon. Since this is my first session, I'm really very excited to give my first seminar on DynamicsCon. I would first and foremost like to thank each and every one of you who have voted for my session, and I hope today I bring something valuable for you. So my topic for today is how to use Power BI with Power Automate and PowerApps. So let's proceed towards the seminar. During the seminar, if you have any questions, you can type it in the live Q&A chat. So what is the Power Platform basically? The Microsoft Power Platform is an ecosystem of three main Microsoft products which consists of Power BI, PowerApps and Power Automate. Recently, a new tool, Power Virtual Agents, is also added. These tools provide the means to help users to easily manipulate their data, automate their data and analyze it, and this can be used together with Office 365, Dynamics 365 as well as other third-party application with the means of custom connectors like Power BI and Power Automate have custom connectors from third-party vendors. We can manipulate data, that is update existing data using Power Automate and Power Apps, while we can analyze data with a tool called Power BI. So let's get started and see the architecture of how these apps are so seamlessly integrated with each other. So as you can see, these are the main applications of the Microsoft Power Platform, which consists of Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. These applications are closely knit because of their connectivity with Dataverse. Dataverse, as you may already know, was also known as CDS before, after which Microsoft has updated its name. It consists of database like structure which provides underlying access to all these applications of Microsoft Power Platform ecosystem. Dataverse uses its resources from Azure. Let's see what these three separate apps are about. Starting with Power BI. Power BI is Microsoft's business intelligence platform that provides its users with tools for aggregating, analyzing, visualizing and sharing data from different data sources. Next up on the list is Power Apps. Power Apps help us to build mobile and web applications with minimal coding, and thus we can empower our ideas into feature-rich apps without the requirement of too much technical knowledge. So we can just find a problem statement and convert it into a usable Power App. Next up on the list is Power Automate. Power Automate allows us to create automated workflows between Microsoft services or other third-party applications which would avoid carrying out repetitive tasks to save time. So these were the apps in the Microsoft Power Platform ecosystem. In this seminar, we will see how we can leverage all these three to increase the productivity and efficiency. So let's take a look towards a demo. To show this example, first we'll go to app.powerbi.com and we'll open an existing report which I have created. Microsoft has recently added Power Apps and Power Automate visuals in Power BI so that these applications could be used more efficiently together. So let's have a look and see how we can take advantage of this Microsoft's integration. So consider a problem statement where you have a list of customers who are late on their invoices. We have their due dates, we have the amount which they are due, and we have the days, like how many days this customer has been defaulted for the payment. So this is the traditional data which we would be able to see in a normal Power BI report. But for example, our manager or accounts has to send an email update to the client reminding him to clear his dues. So it would be normally be a very tedious task because he has to read the data manually from the Power BI report, and he has to draft a mail regarding each client's name, and he has to send it, which becomes very repetitive and tedious. So the easier option would be to create a Power BI and put all the data which is in the report into this Power App, so that inside the Power App through which you can send a mail to the client reminding him to clear his dues. Let me show how we are solving this problem statement. As you can see, this is the table with all the defaulters, and we have their list of names of the defaulters with their amount due. Suppose I want to send LMN Private Limited a reminder to clear his dues for 795 rupees. So I'll just click on the Power App. I'll just enter the email address. I'll save it. The message is automatically generated because the code for this Power App is generating in the backend, and I'll send this email. We'll wait for some time until for the process to get load in the backend. I'll open my Outlook. As you can see, a reminder message has been received on the behalf. We can enter any email we want. This was just to give you an idea how this problem statement could be solved by using PowerApps and Power BI together. I'll give you another problem statement. Consider a scenario in which you have to take your employees' timesheet entries. Each employee has to do a timesheet entry daily depending on the work which they do in their daily weekdays. For example, an employee forgets to put his timesheet entries for the day. So instead of sending him a message personally or reminding on the Teams channel for all the employees to update their timesheet entries, we could create a similar Power App which would remind them for updating their timesheet entries. Not only this, for example, if an employee does his timesheet entries and you want to just approve it, you have the request data collected in a table. You could create a Power App which could modify the data from request to approved. So you could do all these things inside a Power BI report. You could change data, you can modify data, all at the clicks of few buttons. So this is very seamless integration between Power BI and Power Apps. To get started on your first task, you can create a basic application to test which involves all three: Power BI, Power Automate and Power Apps. This is a very basic problem statement. For example, you have a Power App which collects a manager's name and collects a manager's region. When you click on the submit button, the name of this the data of this table gets updated. Here new manager and his region will be added. So let's add here a manager with name Tom, and we'll put his region as East, and we click on submit button. Now as you can see, our Power App is giving us data that the data has been saved successfully. That means on the back end, the data which we have entered from manager and region have been successfully populated in the data set. But from the data set to Power BI, for the data to reflect in this table which is inside Power BI, we have to run Power Automate flow. So we will run it. As you can see, this is triggered. Now the report is getting refreshed, and after a while we can see the name of the manager and his corresponding region. We'll just click on refresh page. As you can see, Tom's data is updated. We get the region Tom and his region as we get the name Tom and his region is showing as East. So this setup is successfully executed. You can try this as well. Let me give you a demo on a problem statement itself. I'll solve a simple problem here. So we'll go and edit, and I will show you a live demonstration on how to create a basic Power App and how to create a basic Power Automate. At this point, if you are not understanding anything, you can drop a message in the live Q&A and I'm ready to solve all your queries. So I'm again giving a problem statement. Consider you have deployed multiple reports in an organization and you want to take your employee feedback, like how is his or her experience with Power BI. Or you're giving a client a Power BI report, or you want their feedback on a report, or forget about feedback, you just want to collect user data using a Power BI report. So how can we do that? Here I'm using the Power App visual. As you can see, the Power App visual has been loaded. Now I will populate it with some data. Just to get started, we are not really using this data. Our problem is that how can we collect user data from Power BI. So I input any column from my data set and I will click on here to create a new app. As you can see, Power Apps is getting loaded in a new window. As I told you, we are currently not using the Power BI data. We want to collect the user input, so we will proceed to delete all these fields inside Power Apps. Now to collect user data or collect user feedback, the best option would be to embed a form inside. So using a form we could easily get user data and we can analyze the statistics as well. So to do that, click on the insert tab. Then after clicking on the insert tab, click on the input button. From the input button, click on the Form Survey Pro and adjust its size as required. So now we have integrated our forms, but we need to actually create a form, right? Now this form is not linked to any form which we have created, so let's do that. Click on the new tab and we will go to Microsoft Forms, and from here we will click on a new form. I would name it as, let's say, feedback form for Power BI. So the title looks good. Now I will add a type of question which would be rating, and I will ask the question that how likely would you recommend Power BI to a friend or colleague. So based on this, the user have to give his feedback, how likely will he be going to recommend Power BI to a friend or colleague. So this looks good. We will just share it. So when we shared it, we are getting a unique URL. We'll just test if this forms link is working fine. We'll go to a new tab and I'll just paste it. As you can see, my form link is working perfect. Now every Microsoft form has a unique ID which can be found out from its URL. As you can see, after the question mark there is an ID field which states that form's unique ID. So I will just select it and we'll just copy it. Now we will head back to our PowerApps window, and after heading back we'll click on survey ID, and inside the double quotes we'll paste this unique ID of PowerApps. As soon as I click OK, you can see the data getting populated and you can see my form is getting generated here. Now I will press Ctrl S and save it as feedback. As you can see, our form is published and it is shared. Now we go back to Power BI. As you can see, Power BI was also loading as well. Now we have to give the necessary permission Power BI requires to contact with PowerApps and Microsoft Forms. So we just allow it, and you can see you have a mini forms embedded inside your report. How cool is that? You can collect from here any data you want. You can collect any feedback you want. And this is an example of seamless integration between PowerApps and Power BI. So where is Power Automate in the question, you might ask. So let's take Power Automate for now. I'll give a Power Automate scenario as well. So consider we have our existing tables and we want these existing tables to be created in the form of Excel or CSV, so that we could send this data to someone who uses Excel or who analyzes data through Excel. So let's get started. I click on the Power Automate visual. After it has loaded, we will add the field through which we want the Excel to be generated. Now I want a CSV file which shows the manager and region, so I will just drop the fields inside. Now after adding our field, we click on these three ellipses. We go to edit. Yeah, cool, it is loaded. It takes a time to load. We click on new and we click on instant cloud flow. We will not use an existing template, but existing template is also cool if you want to send some messages via Teams or email. So a by default trigger would be when a button is clicked inside Power BI, right? So we'll add a new step now, and from here we have to convert it into an Excel file. So first we will compose the data. So we would go to data operation and would click on compose, and inside compose our inputs would be Power BI data, because we want to compose the Power BI data into a single output, right? So we click on a Power BI data item. Yeah, as you can see, now Power BI data has been composed. Now we will add another step. Now this step would convert the composed output into a CSV file. So we again go into data operation and we click on create CSV table, and we would add the above output inside this input, sorry. So as you can see, the output we got from compose we had entered inside create CSV table. Now we want to upload this CSV file somewhere, right? So we will add another step to create a SharePoint file. I'll just search SharePoint. As you can see, now I want to create a file, right? So I'll search for create a file, and I'll search for the URL from the drop down. We'll select the folder path, we'll select test. There is a folder called Jaison test. We will select this folder. Now to go ahead, we'll name the file as d.csv, and the content of the file would be the output we got from create CSV table, right? So we'll select create CSV table as output, and we will save this map. As you can see, the map has been saved. Now we will click on save and apply, and now we will go back to our report. As you can see, a button has been created. This button is huge. We can like readjust this as per our requirement. We can make it small or big. For now, I'll go to the SharePoint folder where the file is supposed to be created. Our folder name was test, and the folder inside was, as you can see, the folder is blank. Now we have to create a CSV file here. So I'll go to the Power BI and just click on the run button. As you can see, it says triggering. We'll give it some time. Our flow has been triggered. Now we'll head back to our SharePoint and we will refresh this page. As you can see, a new file d.csv has been created. So we will click on d.csv, and as you can see, our manager and region data has populated into an Excel file. So that was about today's seminar. I am very happy to be with you all today. So to summarize, we first saw that how our Power BI, Power Automate and Power Apps can be used together to increase productivity and efficiency. We saw their architecture, we saw their individual function. Hope this session was useful to you, and I like to thank each and every one you for voting as well as attending my session. This means a lot. Also, I am very grateful to DynamicsCon for giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak. It was really a very great experience. I hope to meet you all again. I hope you enjoy the rest of the session as well. Thanks a lot everyone. Bye. It has been a wonderful experience speaking for DynamicsCon, and I hope that from the last session you got to learn something about using the Power Platform ecosystem together, and it added value, hopefully. Let's proceed to see the questions we have received in the chat. The first question was from Chamus Gilbert. The question was that, is this possible when using a Power BI desktop? Yes, this is possible because even if you are using Power BI desktop, the Power Apps visual directly gets connected to the connected to the Power App server. So it always fetches the latest app content. So there is no issue. You can use the Power Apps visual inside Power BI desktop as well. The second question was from Dane Picaro about making the forms anonymous. For making the forms anonymous, yeah, it is absolutely possible. It doesn't ask for sign in when you're using the Microsoft form plugin inside Power Apps. So it would collect your responses and it would not show the form, who has filled the form, etc. We'll proceed to another question. Can we pass the parameters from Power BI into the Power App, which we are embedding in the Power BI visual? So yeah, basically when we are using the Power App visual inside Power BI, a function called Power BI integration is automatically created inside the Power Apps portal. You can either keep that function or delete the function. If you keep that function, all that filtered data in Power BI, the data which changes daily dynamically, is also reflected in Power App. So yeah, if we take a Power BI data set and we apply parameters on that, and if we are using Power Apps visual on top of this data, so if this data gets filtered, the new data which is filtered will also get reflected in Power Apps as well. There is another question from Miguel Rodriguez about what does the compose function in Power Automate do. Um, it usually used to format HTML if you have any, so that you could add formatting as required, or if you have multiple inputs, you can compose them as a single output. Without that, the flow which I have demonstrated in this session will also work perfectly. So there is a question from Michelle. The question is that about dashboards, that yes, we can do that in the session. Also, I have covered that, right? That when we are triggering the Power Automate flow, as you can see that as soon as I've triggered the flow, the Power BI refresh dataset blocks gets executed. So as soon as this block is executed, our data is also updated, right? The data which is behind Power BI. So yeah, Michelle, we can control and update our data set, Power BI data set, using flows, and these flows can be inside Power BI. The next question is from Khyati. Hi Khyati. Yes, we can enter data using Power Apps as we required, and the new visual changes in Power Apps will get reflected in Power BI immediately, as this data is getting refreshed every time you open the report. As soon as you click on the report each time, the visual directly contacts the Power Apps server. So each time you do any changes in Power Apps, maybe change image, text size, it dynamically gets reflected in your report as well. There is again a question from James Gilbert. James Gilbert says that can we import datasets from both direct query and normal dataset using flow? For example, if we are consider the problem statement that we want to export the dataset from Power BI's direct query dataset into CSV or some format. So if we are using flow at that time, the condition of the data which is present at the given time would be exported as it is, if that makes sense. Like so it doesn't matter, like if you want to export or if you want to transform data, so data would be changed at that instance. Data which is available at that instance would be get changed, but after some time, if the data gets refreshed, the new data won't be appeared. So comment guys, how did you like the session? How was it? I would love to hear some more questions. If you have any, please mention them in the comments. I have received a question from Michelle again. Is there a best practice regarding when would you use Power App versus a form? Usually, consider a scenario. If you want a app type functionality where you want to modify some data or you want to change something, you would use Power App. Power App is a bit complicated, especially for the people who are a little bit non-technical. So for that purpose, if you want to change something, modify something, or if you want to trigger a flow, for example, create a button which sends an email, or create a button which changes the status of something, you would have to go to Power Apps. But for using Microsoft Forms, you will have to use it for the scenario where your intention is strictly to collect user data, or if you want to collect some feedback. So the use case of both is quite different. So form is only used for survey purposes. If you want to collect something, if you want to gain insight, or if you want to just collect normal feedback. But Power App, if you want to do something with your report apart from visualizing data, if you want to change data, or if you want to notify someone, etc., etc., there are many use case scenarios. The Power Platform ecosystem combined gives us limitless possibilities of what we can do. Like these are so much useful as standalone applications. Imagine just what we can do if we combine all of them. There is a question from John Harper as well. I tried to trigger a flow from a row hyperlink, but it will only use the get action. Is there using the get action? As far as from reading your question, it seems that you're trying to access the API. If you're trying to like trigger the API using get request. I hope all of you enjoyed today's session. If you have any doubts, any difficulties, any problems, you can hit me on LinkedIn. You can hit me on my personal email. I will be more than happy to help to answer all your questions, all your queries. We can work, we can share our knowledge. And I'm very glad we got this opportunity to connect with each other, share our knowledge. DynamicsCon gave me a wonderful chance. It was a very nice experience. Thanks a lot, everyone. So let's see. I'll meet you in the next DynamicsCom. Very excited to see you. Bye, guys. Have a great day. Keep rocking. Stay safe. Bye.